school with Jackie and Lonnie and at Unity Institute, and I forget, Jackie literally can do everything. Amazing. Well, first, I wanted to acknowledge Reverend Myra. She's teaching the youth right now, but I'm so grateful for this opportunity that she's given me. You know, a lot of us don't really see what the minister does all week, but this is the minimalist part of what it is that a minister does. During the week, her schedule is so full of pastoral care and issues. About a week or so ago, we were having a meeting after the Monday night class, and it was after 8 o'clock, and she still had a couple of families to get a hold of that were in bereavement. And I just wanted to thank her for taking extra time to mentor me and answer my questions. And you guys have a terrific minister, and I just wanted to let you know, you guys are very fortunate to have Reverend Myra. And it has also been my privilege to get to know a number of men in the men's group, and you know, we've gotten together a couple times. It's been a lot of fun. For all you other gentlemen that would, you know, in the church, if you want to connect with some guys, I highly recommend getting together with this group of guys here. They're phenomenal, wonderful human beings, and you know, maybe we can do some more fun, creative things. We've got a few things planned for the fall and the winter, so stay tuned. Today's text is out of Matthew chapter 5, and it's a seminal, it's a cornerstone teaching of Jesus, to love your enemies. Now, to give context of what life was like in Israel a couple thousand years ago, the consciousness was that of a tribal nation. A tribal consciousness, you think about it, you have to be very careful when you're a small nation. And you don't really trust folks outside the community. And so it was very common to live in a continual state of fear that you're going to be conquered or what have you. But in Israel's history, they were constantly at war with different countries, the Hittites, Amorites, the Egyptians, you know, all the way back. And during this time frame, it was clearly the Romans. The Romans were a very clear enemy. And did you know that a Roman soldier could come up to a citizen and just say, "Hey, you, come here," and you had to obey, and they'd make you pick up their gear, and you had to carry it for a mile, up to 1 mile. That's in the law. And so they would abuse their power and privilege, and there was a lot of animosity. And so now Jesus comes and says this. It turns people on their ear. "You have heard that it was said, 'Love your neighbor and hate your enemy.' But I say, love your enemies and pray for those that persecute you. In that way, you'll be acting as true children of your Father in heaven. For God gives sunlight to both the evil and the good, and sends his rain on the just and the unjust alike. For what benefit do you have if you love only those people that love you?" And this is where he calls us up to a higher level of consciousness. Jesus said, "Be perfect, therefore, as your heavenly Father is perfect." Now that was tough, always tough for me. Be perfect as God is perfect? Are you kidding me? I really struggled with that. But then when I dug into this a little deeper, I realized that Jesus already gave us the metaphor that he's talking about. Excuse me. Sun is this constant. God sends his sun to shine on the evil and the good. Well, the sun can't willy-nilly decide to shade the Joneses or not give any sunshine to the Williams family. You know, it's an unconditional radiance. Unconditionally beaming heat, love, warmth, all the time. And there's no shadows in the sun. And the second thing that he gives us is rain. Now, in an agrarian society, rain is life. It is sustenance. And without rain, there would be hopelessness. And so Jesus is calling us to be rain. Well, spiritually, it's like soul food. Rain is encouragement. It's praise. Great job. Way to go. Awesome. So we have this radiance of love, and we've got this activity of of lifting people up. That's the example that Jesus teaches us in this. But he's talking about loving your enemies unconditionally, of course. But when we look at that today, who's my enemy today? That's a hard one. You know, I know every 4 years there's some high-paid politicians that, the people that write scripts and whatnot for the politicians, and they do their best to create positionality so that we vilify an opposing position. We label it. Once we label something, we negate it. We can ignore it. Soren Kierkegaard, to label me is to negate me. And so if we catch ourselves with a strong opinion where we generalize and categorize and immediately file something, oh, done, filed, rather than come at something with compassion, we find ourselves reacting. You know, we think that dinosaurs have been dead for millions of years, but there's about 7 billion of us right back here. It's called our brainstem, the amygdala. And that's what the dinosaurs used to function. And when we react, we're not using our prefrontal cortex. We're just using that reactionary, black, white, right, wrong, good, bad. It's like the juvenile brain. The juvenile brain, it's not developed up here. They don't always know how to incorporate everything. And if we spend our time being reactionary, we tend to be critical. And a critical person will oftentimes look at 3 things out of 100, not like this, end up looking like this after a while, and to where all they see is the problem and they can't see the world anymore. And if we're caught up in being critical, it's a reflection of what's going on inside, really, is what it is. Unfortunately, if we're around children and we express to them, you really did a lousy job on the floor this morning. They're, you know, the Charlie Brown, won't, when the parents are talking. Well, the way the juvenile brain interprets this, and again, this is until they're in their 20s, is, unfortunately, there's degrees of mastery. But what's interpreted is, won't, you're no good. Won't, this is bad. You're bad. You see, when we try to criticize something, that consciousness is not able to discern that it's 85% good. It's just black, white, right, wrong, good, bad. And if it's bad, it's bad. The difference between guilt and shame, the way the brain incorporates things, if you know, guilt is, I did something bad. But shame is, I am bad. And if I'm bad at vacuuming, I'm bad, period. And that's the pitfall that our children can kind of come into. And I'm sure some of us as adults can identify that we experienced that as children. And it's taken us a lot of work to get out of that basement consciousness. You know, Jesus said, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So truly, what is going on in here is being projected to all those folks around us. You know, the antithesis of the critical mind is the compassionate mind. Compassion is a great replacement for love because, you know, our Buddhist brothers and sisters really incorporate this as love. Compassion for people. The ability to have compassion is not, there's no potential in the base of our ego, the base of our mentation, but it's a prefrontal cortex thing. It comes from the heart. It's the incorporation. Here's another tangent. Do you know there's 40,000 neurons going from the heart to the brain? We do have a powerful heart chakra that sends information to the brain. Mother Teresa said that if you judge people, you have no time to love them. So if we're critical and judgmental, we have no time to love them because we've labeled them, right? Well, on the interior side, if we're judgmental of ourselves, we have no time to love ourselves. And this is where it starts. Because out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. It's self-talk. What's going on in our heart is what we speak to ourselves. And then we speak to our family and our friends and our coworkers. You know, I love what You know, if you look at 30,000 feet of the teachings of Jesus, the Buddha, and Krishna, it's all the same. You know, they all three were talking about compassion and forgiveness being critical. You know, Jesus said, forgive them, Father, they don't know what they're doing. You know, the Buddha said, guys, it's not this extreme and it's not that extreme. It's the road of moderation. It's the middle road. Krishna said, all positionality is due to ignorance. So if we're really attached to our opinion, I would encourage you to question your opinion. Don't be so quick to put a label on things, but question. A questioned mind is a great thing. It stirs the soul. It allows us to look beyond the layers of ego and get to our substrate, which is the Christ. The Buddha nature deep within us is a substrate of pure love. That's what resides at the base of every person. You know, when you look at a flower, it's an expression of God. It's an expression of God's love. When you look into a person's face, I love what Mother Teresa said, that every person is Jesus in all of his distressing disguises. Reverend Myra just mentioned that one a week or two ago. And that's so true. The Christ is right with us at all the time. And so another thing that Jesus said is to love your neighbor as yourself. And I used to struggle with this one too. First I got to be perfect as God is perfect, and now I have to love my neighbor as myself. This is tough. But what if Jesus was saying it like this? Hey guys, by the way, did you know this, that every minute of every day you're actually loving your neighbor as yourself? Yeah, because what's coming out of your mouth to your friends is a reflection of what's in your heart, which is a reflection of self-talk, what you're telling yourself. So indeed, if we are critical, then we're being critical of our neighbors. If we're gracious and compassionate, patient with people, then that's obviously coming from inside. It's how we're treating ourselves. So Jesus gives us this great mirror. Whenever you want to check yourself out, just check out what's coming out of your mouth, what's going on in your thoughts, and you'll see where you're at. So there's a slide I'd like to put up. My favorite author and teacher is Dr. David R. Hawkins. And I've been to a number of his lectures. He's transitioned. Last year he transitioned. And he was a psychiatrist for 50 years. And for a time, he ran the largest psychiatric institution in the United States. Thousands of outpatients. It was in New York. There was multiple locations. And he did all the research, psychological research, and also did direct counseling as well. But he compiled this, and I saw this in a lecture, bought the DVD, froze the frame, and I took his numbers and put them into this bar graph here. So at the consciousness level, like this tribal consciousness, lives in a continual state of fear. So what this represents, at the top here we have obviously percentage of time in happiness, if you can't read that. That's what these bars represent. And in that top consciousness, it's the levels of fear, craving, and anger. And these people in these zip codes, if you will, of consciousness, experience happiness 10 to 12% of the time. Now, if we move up to a more powerful level of consciousness, to pride, they experience happiness twice as often, 22% of the time. And now we move up to our soldiers, people walking into the bullets, and people who are flexible, neutral, easygoing, give you the shirt off their back, willing to help out. These people, it's a quantum leap here. They're experiencing happiness 55 to 70% of the time. And then now we get to where Jesus was talking about. Love and unconditional love. People that live in a continual state of love represent 4% of our population. 4 out of 100 live in a constant state of love, and they experience happiness 90% of the time. People that experience unconditional love, like the radiance of the sun, they experience happiness 99% of the time. But that statistically is only about 4 people out of 1,000. But that's where we want to go, and we can get there. As we release our attachments, our positionalities, our opinions, this is a doable goal in our lifetime. We can do this. Go ahead and change the slide. So Yoda tells Darth that, hey, I'm not any better than you, I'm just happier. I love that. I've got a little Boston Terrier, and when I saw this, I was like, oh, that's just terrific. They're pretty much the same face, you know. You know, it's funny, after a while, when I first got him, I'm like, what a funny face. And then after a while, now I see a long snout dog, and I go, what a funny face. He snores more than a trucker, though. It's pretty amazing. Chester. You know, Wayne Dyer's got a book out called The Power of Intention, and in that he talks about a research project that some doctors did. And they wanted to see the effects of if I were to give you a gift. What would happen in your brain chemistry when you receive the gift? And then they also hooked up the giver as well. And what they found was both people experienced the same phenomena. They both had increased levels of serotonin and endorphins. You know, they were just feeling great about this. Well, then they went one step further. They got other people into the room and wired them up as well, and they all experienced the same thing. Does this sound familiar? Jesus also said, give, and it shall be given to you. For by the same measure that you give out, it will be measured back to you. You know, I was taught when I was an evangelical Christian that happens in heaven. Oh no, it's instant karma. It's right here, right now. We can have a powerful impact in every moment of every day. We choose to love, or we can choose to withhold love. What if when we walk out of here today, we walk in the parking lot, excuse me, and we witness a 50-year-old smacking around a little 5-year-old? That we couldn't bear that. We would stop that, of course. We'd intervene to the best of our ability. But do we allow that to happen? Do we allow that to occur inside our own heart? To that one inside of us, that 5-year-old inside of us? I started a practice that my partner Connie taught me a number of years ago, and it changed my life. And I used to be very critical of myself. I went through a very difficult time in my life, and we were God geeks. She was a friend of mine in Florida, and I was up in Seattle, and we would talk about God all the time. She introduced me to New Thought and to Unity. And but I was going through this really hard time, and she encouraged me to get a picture of myself as a child. And this is a homework assignment. I'm serious about this part. I want each of you to find a picture of yourself. Some of you are already doing this practice, and it changed my life. And I promise you, if you do this practice, it will change your life. Okay? I set this on my desk every day, and I look at myself every day. And when I have a critical or negative thought about me, guess what? I just embrace myself. And I say, sweetheart, I'm proud of you. I love you. I think you're doing a fabulous job. And it's okay if it didn't work out as you wanted to this time. It'll be all right. You're doing your best. I love you. God bless you. And I look at that every day. And it has changed my life. You know, simple things like, golfing. If I used to shank a shot, I would rip myself up, and throw a club and throw a tantrum. Well, after this practice, I just laugh. I mean, what do I expect? Am I going to stick it in the green every time? I'm a rookie, I'm a total novice. So anyhow, it's just allowed me to laugh at myself and have fun. Life is too short to take myself so seriously. Well, now I want to take us through an exercise. We didn't do any meditation before, and I'm going to take you through a guided meditation at this point. So this is another practice to help drive this home. And I would invite you to participate. Close your eyes, and let's just relax into this moment. We begin by imagining a very comfortable day. There's a gentle breeze. It's a little foggy, so we can't see off into the far distance. But it's perfect. We can smell lilac in the air. And soon we notice this being coming toward us that's radiant, bright, shining, like an angel, or Christ Jesus, or the Buddha, or any ascended master. We'll just call it your spirit guide. And your spirit guide comes to your shoulder, and soon you're communicating, but non-verbally. The moment you have a thought and a question, suddenly you have a knowingness, an understanding. It's beyond concept. It's a knowingness, a certainty. And your spirit guide leads you to a well. And this well is about 4 feet across and 3 feet high. It's stone. And your guide has you look into the well, which is filled to the top with water. And when you do so, you begin to see an image from your life. Now, it must be said that the presence of this individual next to you is the radiance and love of God. You feel incredible peace, joy, contentment, that you never want to go anywhere else or do anything else. You're home. And so as you look into this scene in this well, it is an image from your life. You recognize a person coming up to you, and in that exchange, you were not patient. You withheld love from this person. And immediately in that experience, you feel the pain that that person felt, the rejection, the hurt, the broken heart. And immediately that person goes and encounters another person and withholds love from that person as well. And you feel the pain intensify. You feel the pain that both of them experience in that moment. They turn and encounter 2 more people. Then you feel the pain of all 4. And at this point, you're nauseous. And it continues to where, again and again, to where your heart is being torn apart. And you feel ashamed. And you lift your head to the Spirit Guide and you say, I'm sorry, forgive me. Instantly, you're forgiven. You are rinsed in love, immersed in peace. The joy and contentment is resident again. You're completely restored. And your guide says, now let's create a beautiful experience. And this time you devote yourself to love the one in front of you. And you discover this is easy to pause and listen and lovingly respond because it's automatic. Because you truly love the one inside of you first. And it pours out of you without any effort. It just is. And now you understand what Jesus meant when he said, be perfect. Radiate unconditional love. Pour out unconditional encouragement, praise, and kindness to the one in front of you. And now you realize that the transformation of the world begins within you. Your guide says, all we are here for is love. So therefore, be kind to everything and everyone, especially yourself, all the time, with no exception. And by doing so, you create a world of love. And when you're ready, you may open your eyes and reground yourself in this room. So you ask yourself, how do I do this? How do I love my enemies? Well, first, I love myself. And the ripple effect just pours to the one in front of me, and to the next person, and to the next person. All we are here for is love. God bless you.